who is Marilou Danley, girlfriend of suspected Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock. The girlfriend of the man accused in the deadly Las Vegas shooting has lived in Nevada since 2003, according to records obtained by the Reno Gazette-Journal from Washoe County District Court. The Reno Gazette-Journal also has interviewed friends of Marilou Danley, 62, some of whom said Danley is out of the country in the Philippines. Danley did not return multiple phone calls. Danley had worked as a high-limit hostess at the Atlantis Casino Resort and Spa, according to her LinkedIn profile. Danley was previously married to Gary Danley, who now lives in Arkansas. They married in Las Vegas in 1990, according to Washoe County records. They jointly filed for divorce February 25, 2015, and the divorce was finalized the next day. A man listed in court papers as a witness to the Danleys' divorce but who did not want his name used said Marilou Danley was visiting family in the Philippines. Another friend of the man said that man had been in contact with Marilou Danley in recent days. CNN and the Brisbane, Queensland, Courier-Mail also have reported that Marilou Danley was in the Philippines. Before her Facebook page became unavailable, her public profile showed pictures of various trips outside the United States, including the Philippines. She is an Australian citizen who was born in the Philippines, according to the Australian newspaper. During her American divorce, Marilou Danley listed a downtown Reno unit at the Montage Luxury Condominium as her address. At the time, Stephen Paddock owned the unit. Court records indicated that she started living at the address in August 2013. Paddock sold the condominium in December 2016. Authorities confirmed that Marilou Danley is not in the United States and now say she is no longer considered a person of interest. Marilou Danley lived with Paddock in a Reno suburb. Residents of Reno's Somerset neighborhood said the couple also lived in a tan and brown home there. Property records listed Paddock as the owner of the house since June 2013. Susan Page, a Reno neighbor, described Paddock and Marilou Danley as a closet people who kept to themselves. "I never saw them," she said of her neighbors. Page, 68, moved to Reno from Texas in July. A few weeks later, she said she saw Marilou Danley pack up her car and leave. She said the house has been empty since. On Monday, the blinds were drawn shut. Tom Hedger of Reno walks his dog up and down the street daily. "I've seen them back out maybe a couple times, but never got to know the neighbor or knew the neighbor. I know a few other neighbors that said they never met him either. It's a shock to all of us," he said. "We'd never expect it in our neighborhood." Susie Flynn, the community representative for Del Webb Sierra Canyon in Reno, said Paddock and Marilou Danley weren't active in the community. She had not seen them at any of the weekly organized community social events. "I didn't even recognize his picture," she said, noting part of her job was to meet the people in the retirement community. Betty Dixon of Reno said Marilou Danley often attended the Zumba and yoga classes offered, calling her a wonderful woman. "She is so warm, so outgoing," Dixon said. "She was so sweet." Most recently, Marilou Danley had been living with Paddock in southern Nevada, police said. Earlier Monday, police surrounded and entered the single-family home in Mesquite, about 400 miles southeast of Reno, where Paddock and Marilou Danley lived, Mesquite Police Chief Troy Tanner said. She was not at the house and police saw no movement inside before serving a search warrant at the one-story, three-bedroom home in the Sun City retirement community, about 80 miles north of Las Vegas near the Arizona state line, he said. Sheriff Joe Lombardo didn't release further details but said authorities would try to speak with her when she got back to the United States. Authorities have yet to identify a motive for the shooting that killed 59 people at an outdoor country music concert but say they believe 64-year-old Paddock acted alone. He killed himself after carrying out the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history.